I heard the chapel bell before I saw the steeple, off-key, slow, like it was mourning something still dying. The wind had a voice out here, and it carried secrets. Prairie grass hissed around my boots as I crested the hill, eyes locked on the chapel where I learned to pray and to lie. It looked smaller than I remembered. Crooked shingles, sagging porch, but the same white paint peeling like scabbed flesh. I hadn't been back since the winter pa vanished, and the snow turned red near the well. Folks said wolves. I knew better. I came with a Bible in one hand and a pistol hidden beneath the other. Not to save souls, just to see if this town had one left to save. The door groaned like it recognized me. Inside, the air was still and bitter, laced with cedar and rot. Pews leaned sideways like broken teeth. The pulpit was stained dark beneath the paint, like someone tried scrubbing something out of the wood. I stepped behind it, feeling the floor creak under my weight, and more than that, shift. Hollow. I knelt, rapped once, empty beneath. My hand brushed sermon pages yellowed and cracked with age. Beneath them, I found a notch, just wide enough for the pistol I'd hidden as a boy. It was still there, unfired, but loaded. I didn't hear the footstep until the chapel door creaked again. A woman's voice. "We didn't think you'd ever come back, Micah." My stomach turned. It was Clara, and she sounded like she already regretted it. Clara hadn't aged a day, and that unsettled me more than anything. She stood in the doorway like a statue carved out of regret, bonnet tied tight, eyes cold. "This town's at peace now," she said. "Best not stir what's settled." I didn't answer. Just let my fingers rest beneath the pulpit, where the grip of the Colt waited like memory. There's graves that don't wear names, Micah, and we've all agreed not to remember why. My throat felt dry. "Truth doesn't rot in the ground, Clara," I said. "It waits." She stepped forward one pace. Just one. "Then pray your God favors the quiet dead." The wind slammed the door shut behind her. And I knew I wasn't just here to preach. I was here to dig. I found the first grave by memory, not sight, just beyond the chapel, where the grass grew taller and meaner. No marker, just a stone worn smooth by time and shame. I knelt, fingers brushing earth that felt freshly disturbed, even after all these years. My brother Samuel had stood right here, once. Whispered something about blood and mercy before they made him disappear. He'd asked me not to tell. I didn't. That silence followed me from tent revivals to desert crossings, and now back to where it began. A low rumble rolled across the plains. Not thunder. Down. I stood slow, eyes narrowing at 3 riders cresting the ridge. Faces I almost knew. Eyes I couldn't trust. This wasn't a welcome party. It was a warning. They didn't speak at first. Just circled. Boots heavy in their stirrups, rifles loose but ready. One spat a dark stream of tobacco. Another nodded toward the grave behind me. "We let the past lie, preacher," he said. "That's how Mercy Ridge keeps breathing." I didn't move. Didn't blink. "Funny," I said. "Breathe in town with a graveyard that won't stop growing." The oldest one leaned forward in his saddle. "Your daddy thought truth made him holy. Got him a pine box and a hole in the frost." The other 2 chuckled low. I didn't. I just looked past them, toward the well behind the chapel, boarded now. The one Pa died near. The one that still stank of metal and ghosts. I touched the pistol under my coat. "I'm not here to dig up bones," I lied. "Just to make sure they stay buried right." That night, I sat on the chapel steps with the revolver across my lap, and the sky choked in clouds. No stars. Just wind hissing through the grass like it was telling secrets. Inside, a single candle burned behind the stained glass. I hadn't lit it. Someone had. Someone watching. I could feel eyes out there, waiting to see if I'd preach or pry. I ran my thumb along the cylinder. 6 rounds. Not enough if they all came at once, but enough for a reckoning. Somewhere beneath me lay the bones of people whose names I used to say at dinner. And the people who put them there sat in pews and called it salvation. I was raised in this church, taught the good book, but tonight I was preparing for a different gospel, one where the truth bleeds and the righteous don't flinch. At dawn, I pried up the boards over the old well with a crowbar borrowed from the stables. The wood split easy, like it had been waiting to give way. I lowered a rope with shaking hands, the cold breath of earth rising to meet me. It stank of rust, rot, and something older than sin. I didn't have to go deep, just far enough to find the bones. First a buckle, then a tooth, then a boot still laced around a broken foot. I didn't scream. I didn't pray. I just counted. 8 bodies. One of them had Pa's wedding ring on a skeletal hand. My jaw clenched. My knees buckled. Then I heard the church bell ring again. Once. Just once. A warning. Someone knew what I'd found, and they wanted me to join the dead. They were waiting for me in the chapel, 7 men and Clara, standing among the pews like ghosts with rifles. The candlelight trembled on the walls, throwing long shadows across faces I once called neighbor. I stood in the doorway, wet to the waist, blood seeping through my shirt where the wellstones bit me on the climb out. "You opened it," Clara said. Her voice was calm, like a teacher scolding a child. I raised the pistol. It didn't shake. "You left him down there," I said. "My father, my brother, and others." One of the men stepped forward. "It kept the railroad happy. Kept your stomach full, too." I didn't answer. I just stepped into the aisle and closed the chapel doors behind me. "Teen, let's see how much truth your guns can swallow." The first shot took the hymn book off the pulpit. The second caught a man in the shoulder, spinning him into the pews. I dove sideways as the lantern shattered, fire licking the aisle in quick orange tongues. Clara screamed something I couldn't hear over the gunfire. The chapel became a furnace of smoke and gunpowder, the saints on the windows watching as judgment came fast and bloody. I fired blind, 2 more rounds. Felt something graze my arm, hot and sharp. One of the men was crawling, trying to reach his dropped rifle. I put him down. No prayers, just silence. When the smoke thinned, only Clara stood. Rifle empty, eyes wild. "You've cursed us all," she hissed. I raised the pistol. "No," I said. "You did that the day you called murder mercy." "Ah." Silence returned like a stranger unsure of its welcome. I stood alone, pistol lowered, breath like fire in my throat. Smoke drifted through the shattered windows, curling around the blood-stained pews like incense for a funeral no one would claim. The chapel bell swayed above me, groaning in the wind, but no longer ringing. I staggered to the pulpit. The pistol clattered to the floor. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, but from the weight of what I'd finally unearthed. Not just bones, not just murder, but belief. Twisted, buried, fed with silence until it grew into ritual. They killed to keep the town breathing. And now, I was the last one left who remembered what it cost. I buried them with my own hands, every one of them. The shooters. Clara. Even the nameless bones pulled from the well. I marked each grave with a cedar plank, carved only with the date. No names. Not yet. Let the wind argue with God about what they deserve. My coat flapped in the rising wind, dust biting at my eyes. The storm was coming hard. Maybe it would erase all of this. Maybe that's what Mercy Ridge needed. A flood. A fire. Or someone with enough guilt to plant seeds in grave dirt, and call it a warning. I lit the last match and dropped it on the chapel roof. It went up like old sin, and I walked away with smoke in my lungs and no prayer in my mouth. I didn't look back until the chapel was a black line against the sky. My horse moved slow, like it knew we were leaving something buried that still wanted digging. I passed the old creek where Samuel taught me to shoot, the tree where Ma used to read scripture in the shade, and farther out, the split fence Pa mended the week before he died. All of it still standing, all of it rotten. I didn't leave a note, didn't leave a sermon, just fire and silence and a graveyard full of warnings. Folks might come back someday, might build again, but the ground knows. And if they listen close, they'll hear the grass whispering the names of the dead. I rode on, and didn't stop until the prairie swallowed me whole. The moon climbed high, casting everything in silver lies. I rode through quiet land, the burned Bible under my arm still hot at the spine. Most of its words were gone now, charred or faded. The ones that remained burned brighter than ink ever should. Justice, mercy, talk, vengeance. I didn't know which one I was anymore. I wasn't a preacher, not by the way my father meant it, but I carried the fire now, inside my ribs behind my eyes. It would not be extinguished. The land was quiet, but I knew it wasn't clean. I could feel more towns out there, more secrets packed tight under chapel floorboards. If I was to preach anything again, it'd be true, and I'd deliver it like thunder. The fire was low, just enough to keep the wolves guessing. I sat cross-legged in the dirt, revolver on one side, the scorched Bible on the other. My coat was stiff with dried blood and prairie grit. I should have prayed. Instead, I listened, to the wind, to the crackle, to the silence that followed me now like a second shadow. I opened the Bible. A page stuck near the back still bore a verse in red ink. I read it aloud, voice hoarse. "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." I almost laughed. The truth didn't set me free. It broke me open. But it was mine now, and I would carry it, carved into flesh and fire. By dawn, I saw a town on the horizon. New paint, clean fences, a steeple without blood beneath it. Yet, I watched from the ridge, the sun crawling over my back like a burden. My horse whinnied once. I patted its neck. I didn't know this place, but I knew what to look for. Quiet cemeteries, crooked bells, sermons that rang too loud. If the truth was buried here, I'd find it. And if not, maybe I'd leave something behind other than smoke and ash. I turned the reins and started down slow. The Bible thudded against my ribs. The revolver stayed warm at my side. No salvation in my saddle. Just judgment, riding toward the next pulpit built on bones. They turned to look the second I stepped through the chapel doors. Clean faces, clean clothes, eyes full of welcome and worry. Dust followed me in, clinging to the air like judgment. The preacher at the pulpit stuttered mid-verse. I nodded once, slow, and walked to the back pew without a word. They didn't know me, but something in my gait, something in the way I smelled of fire and grave dust, told them I wasn't here to sing. I sat and listened, watched, waited. The scripture came easy, but the air held tension just beneath the surface. Like this place was built too fast, too pretty, too good. I closed my eyes and prayed, not for peace, but for truth. And when it came, I hoped I'd still have bullets left. By nightfall, I'd found the records room, padlocked, but not tight. A blade under the hinge got me in. The books were stacked like tombstones, the ink faded but still loud. Lander grants, baptism rolls, names that showed up twice and vanished. I flipped until I saw it. A note from a preacher long gone. Ground disturbed near west fence. Advised silence. My fingers curled tight. Another town. Another secret. But not buried deep enough. My revolver sat on the ledges now. Waiting. Watching. I wasn't law. Wasn't clergy. I was something in between. A witness turned weapon. And I would not stop until the dead had their say. They tried to stop me. 2 men with smooth hands and 2 clean boots. They thought they could bury the truth again. But the fire behind me says otherwise. It licked up the steeple fast, feeding on dry wood and dry sin. I rode away slow, the smoke curling into the twilight like a benediction. No one followed. Not yet. The next town's already waiting, though it doesn't know it. My name's not in their ledgers, but my shadow will be. I sit in the back pew, ask quiet questions, watch the wind. And when the ground